everyone, Pineapple here with the first of the Ninth Doctor's new audio series from Big Finish, The Ninth Doctor Adventures Series 4 Episode 1, Snare. Now this is a big turning point in this series for multiple reasons. The first, and not so prevalent on the cover, is that this series is running alongside the 13th Doctor Adventures, each every other month, starting with 13, and then with 9 the next month, and so on and so forth. Also, foregoing the box set formula, which I like to see, as in recent times, many box set lines from the 8th Doctor to recently in the Space Security Service have done away with or are losing their individual covers. Speaking of covers, of course, as you can see, this marks the return of Billie Piper with the Ninth Doctor. Previously, she had a stint with 10, but this story seemingly takes place after Father's Day. The Doctor deciding to stick around with Rose for some domestics after what happened. I guess making this series 1.5, much like Big Finish had series 7V. Like usual, I suppose we should start with the characters. Of course, we start with the Ninth Doctor, reprised by Christopher Eccleston, who we last heard in the fantastic Archipelago, and the disappointing Time Lord Immemorial. And he's pretty good in this story. I think the middle ground of care and whimsy and detached brooding of 9 is hit dead on. Even if there are one or two lines I thought he should have acted a little differently. But even though he hits the alien side very well, his interactions, both positive and frustrated, are handled pretty well, especially with Rose and Jackie, even if he can be a bit too rude. By the end, I think his little emotional arc where he respects Kevin's situation is complex, and although having criticised Kevin before does make an act of kindness, even if not crediting from it, is wrapped quite well. And I'm hoping we get more like this in the future. Our second Doctor actor of the set is Billie Piper, returning as Rose Tyler. And while it's been a while, I do remember not being that impressed with her previous run of stories. In fact, I recall liking the stories less and less as the trilogy went on. But here, Rose is used pretty well. Not only is she played well, but she's written effectively and given a pretty good emotional arc for the story, based around her coming to grips with her character development and how she recalls not being such a bad kid, only to be confronted with the truth that she perhaps wasn't as nice as she thought she was. This and the way she grapples with having been away for so long add to make this a really nice Rose story, even if not holding a candle to Father's Day, but alike in more ways than one. Of course, with Rose returning to the Powell estate, we get Jackie Tyler as ever, played by Camille Kaduri. Now, she doesn't exactly get as big a part in the story as 9 and Rose, but she's coming pretty close, having really good moments, both emotional and comedic. And while she's just the same old Jackie, it's a lot better to see her work off of 9 and Rose, instead of River Song for the 4th time. Our pseudo-protagonist for the story is Kevin, played by Alex Austin. And he's fine. There are some well-played emotional moments, but I was more invested in the story surrounding the character than Kevin himself. Not to say he was written or played poorly, the character just really didn't speak to me. I felt an indifference to the character himself, even if I was conversely somehow invested in the story with his father, and the very real topics it covers. The same can be said for Hannah Brown, playing Marlene and the Gardener. Marlene is another character not written or played particularly poorly, I just didn't care about her at all. And considering she's supposed to be the death that affects change in the characters, that's a bit of an issue. But as the Gardener, getting less lines for most of the story, but having a very emotional part in the 3rd act was handled fairly better than the annoying Marlene. The story itself starts with Kevin returning to the Powell estate, bringing his half-nice, half-utterly pretentious photographer friend to take pics of his dead dad's flat, finding unexpected alien plants. Not knowing what to do, Kevin comes around to see Jackie. Now we get drip-fed Kevin's backstory through the episode as to why he's so close to others and the Tylers. Turns out his dad had serious mental issues, and the episode takes a great, almost Torchwood-like turn with it, where Kevin, once learning about aliens, tries to explain his dad's illness away as a side effect of the mystery, but the Doctor confirms that that's just not true. Kevin's father was just a very sick man with severe mental illness, and in a fairly low-income area like the Powell estate, where there is the lower-class families like the Tylers, having a man like this left to care for his child, the nice people around caring for the boy but not calling British Child Services or anything, feels like a very real and possible situation. And I love that it's explicitly told that this is just real, and the way it unfolds in the story keeps momentum pretty well. But the realism and the true horror of a situation like this feels very much like a Father's Day type story, settling it in timeline-wise nicely. Nine and Rose happen to be around, Jackie torturing Nine with her iconic food, and topless Kate Winslets.
I'll tell you what it is, though.
What?
A mystery.
And you love that?
Of course I do.
Mum's gonna be mad it's ruined her film night.
I keep telling her that I don't want to watch Titanic. I was there. It was traumatic.
Nine and Rose start investigating the plants after some domestic fluff, and the others end up disappearing into an alien jungle, much like those in the flat. Jackie, Kevin and Marlene travel around, finding a lot of backroomish missing items that have fallen through into this world, a little too close as a concept to Dimension of Lost Things, which wasn't that long ago, but the closeness is fine, and they eventually come upon an alien gardener tending to the land. The gardener isn't an evil presence, but certainly takes umbrage with the new appearances, particularly Kevin's. When coming into an open space, large fly-like creatures do unspeakable things to Marlene, and Rose and the Doctor manage to find Jackie and Kevin. Trying to find a way out, they find a perception filter in the flat, hiding another door, which is found in a pretty interesting test. It turns out that seemingly at first insane scramblings done by Kevin's father are actually navigational marks to get through the forest, allowing the group to eventually make their way out of a small door and back into the flat. It turns out this forest is a multi-dimensional ship, a weapon being the titular Snare, a soul snare. It having accidentally latched onto the flats, and poorly replicated houseplants as its wildlife, sinks as its lakes, and the Doctor plans to nudge it out of the way before more people can get hurt. Kevin assumes this alienness is the reason his dad went bananas, but the Doctor quite callously tells him the truth and insults him for wanting to believe in something that makes his past easier to live with.
You could have handled that better.
Handle what better?
The stuff about his dad.
Oh, this isn't about his dad. Why do humans have to make everything so small?
Excuse me?
There is a shape-shifting warship that popped out of nowhere, and he's trying to tether it down with family ties.
Is that what you think I'm doing? Staying with my mum?
Oh, I just get a little tired of this stuff, Rose.
Tired? A family? You never talk about yours.
That's because I don't have one.
Must have done at some point. Or did you pop out of nowhere too?
Thanks to his attitude later on when he realizes he has to nudge the ship from inside, Kevin has already gone in looking for the gardener. Nine and Rose go in to save him, Jackie backing them up, and while Jackie manages to get him back after he gets his confirmation that the gardener knew his dad, Nine and Rose talk to the gardener, and it reveals itself as a hydrant, last seen on the channel in Tim Foley's Dark Gallifrey Morbius 3-parter. So when Kevin's dad died so close to the hydrant, it absorbed his mind and carried it on inside it, allowing him a life of peace where he no longer has to suffer with his own mental illness, and took solace in the fact his son was now free of his declining state. He asks them not to tell Kevin about him, and succeeds in moving the ship far away himself. And at the end, the Doctor doesn't tell Kevin, but using a radio set up earlier in the story, he gets Kevin to say the things he would have said to his father, broadcasting them back to the Snare. A pretty beautiful ending. So that was Snare, and I liked it a lot. I think with a smaller sidecast and a more personal story as a basis, it worked a lot better as a start than Vampire Weekend. But Summer Nine's moments were a bit too flat or unlikable, even if you see what they were going for and they kind of fit in with his season 1 characterization. And no shade to Alex Austin, but I really didn't get into Kevin as deep as I thought I would, with a different performance. Much like 9, I got what they were going for, and it mostly worked, but the listening experience was a bit bogged down in how depressive and snappy he could be at times. Not like that's an unrealistic portrayal, he just happened to frustrate me. So with momentary flaws, a couple of them more down to my biases, a nice story and moral, the Ninth Doctor Adventures Series 4 Episode 1, Snare, by Tim Foley, feels like a 7.5, but I think it did enough with its story and elements to justify an 8. Personally, with my opinion, it's a 7.5, but I can easily see other people enjoying this as an 8, so for simplicity's sake, let's call it an 8. Thank you everybody for watching my review of the first episode of this new run, Snare. I was a little umming and ahhing about the score of this episode, but I feel like I justified my thinking pretty well. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, tell me what you thought about Snare in the comments maybe. Consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring that notification bell so that you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.